Welcome to the 2023 London Fashion Week review. This year's events have all been dedicated to the late legendary designer Vivienne Westwood, who sadly died at the end of last year. Let's look at some trends for the fall-winter season of 2023. Red was definitely the dominating color across all the collections in London, whether it was styled back to neutrals or worn head to toe. A second striking color was the radiant yellow at Burberry, Richard Kane and Christopher Kane. Sheer was definitely a very popular material. Lots of dramatic dresses in completely see-through fabrications were shown throughout many of the shows. One of the major trends was the return of peplum. Voluminous skirting or tops with a flared bottom made an appearance across a number of major runway shows in London. Designers added volume at the waist to create unique silhouettes. Another trend was bold graphics. Whether they be surrealist, superhero or silly, splash across a number of collections this season. The message was, fashion doesn't need to be so serious. There were pigs, ducks, chickens and even rats. The London Fashion Week runways were filled with the animal inspiration this year. Let's start reviewing some shows. So first up we have Molly Goddard. Molly described her collection as, "I wanted to go back to a place of it feeling very simple, like it was in the beginning, just a little bit more honest, fundamental, kind of saying, this is our reality." The show took place at her Bethnal Green studio east of London. Personal nostalgia and memories of clothes both provided creative inspirations. Molly said, "I think I've just felt a little bit freaked out by the fashion world recently. It's easy to get so pushed along and strung along with the whole show of it." Goddard delivered a collection worked on her own terms and which needed no showstopper to impress. The designer had sourced old magazines with her sister and stylist, Alice Goddard, at the Central St. Martin's Library, remembering how they would have worn the clothing they had owned as teenagers growing up in London, all of which appeared in various inspirations throughout the collection, within Molly Goddard's vivid style. A streamlining of her signature expansive silhouette made for some of the collection's most arresting moments, including a pink dress with a knife-sharp slits, out of which delicate panels of red tulle emerged. Next show we have Simone Rocha. Simone has often looked towards the traditional festivals of her native Ireland in her collections. This season she was inspired by the historic Irish tradition of Lugnasa, which was a harvest festival. The red ribbons that fell from the hair, garments, and sometimes eyes of certain models were meant to represent blood traditionally daubed in children's faces to ward off ill spirits and bad luck. The use of raffia recalled the Irish tradition of weaving hay and wheat into ceremonial shapes. Here imagined in braided dresses or handfuls of raffia trapped under tulle to give gowns their shape, while delicate red ribbon adorning dresses or hanging from beneath the model's eyes like tears reference the festival's link with blood. The god Luke was believed to have poured his own onto the fields in order to harvest to thrive. Other Rocha signatures were revisited this season, whether delicate sequin and crystal embroidery or the expansive, ultra-feminine silhouettes, as was menswear, which debuted last September. Next, we have Burberry. This season marked Daniel Lee's hotly anticipated debut as Burberry's new creative director. It started with a bit of a fog on the runway as the audience cozied on blankets and was served hot toddies. Then a woman followed by a man both wearing long army green raincoats and clutching Burberry plate-covered hot water bottles, came on. Lee, no stranger to luxury brand revival, said he lifted ideas from Burberry's old fabric books that have been around for 100 years from the Old English mills. Lee's vision made a gutsy move, taking the brand into uncharted territory. In its nearly 170 years in business, Burberry has never seen so much vibrant color. Gone are the Riccardo Tisci days of beige, and in their place are pairings of purple and green, orange and pink, burgundy and white in the shape of checks, diamonds and roses. He added a bright yellow duck print to the mix just because I find it very British. It makes me think of the park, and Burberry is an outdoors brand associated with the rain and protection. And the brand is about functionality, he said, because the ducks are so British and associated with rain, Mr. Lee said after the show. His designs were miles from the prim leather classic that Burberry has been selling so far. On the footwear front, there were outdoorsy boots with rugged soles and more delicate styles sprouting fur from all angles. Next, we have Christopher Kane. Housewives, cleaners, barmaids, said Christopher Kane of the Muses for his Autumn-Winter 2023 collection, which the Scottish designer noted began with memories of his mother, aunt and neighbors in the 1980s. There was a mix of sensuality and subversion. Vast ruffles emerged from the waist of a red PVC skirt. The structured panels that rose from the back of dresses and around models' necks were inspired by chopping boards, while kitschy prints of chicks, rats, and pigs, which were generated by the AI, adorned body-conscious gowns slit to the upper thigh. A modern wardrobe for those who desire clothes that challenge sartorial tastes and standards, described the collection notes, referring also to delicate flower motifs like those you might find on vintage home furnishings, which appeared throughout, and softened, hard-line silhouettes. Such juxtapositions, Kane said, were an attempt to capture the complexities of growing up in a working-class environment, a reference to his own upbringing, which continues to prove fertile ground for his work. Christopher Kane has always relished being a provocateur. Next, we have Erdem. Erdem said that this season began with peeling back layers of wallpaper in his Bloomsbury townhouse to discover the echoes of the building's former residents. The building's past lives included a home of hope for the restoration of fallen women in Victorian times. The women are long since departed, but the imprints and vestiges of their presence remain, read the collection notes. The collection's looks encapsulated a ghostly faded glamour, their forms appearing from the darkness and tracked with rowing spotlights. In the clothing itself, historical silhouettes in various jacquards and prints, recalling those found in the 19th century homes, were reinterpreted by Erdem's contemporary eye. Notes of subversion emerged in vast taffeta gloves, the appearance that was that of a bell sleeve, unraveling hems and shades of bright yellow and citrine, while the designer's richness of craft emerged in the expansive use of embellishment and embroidery throughout. Next, we have David Koma. His fall collection revolved around the notion of glamour, with the legendary German-American actor Marlene Dietrich serving as the muse. This certainly feels like his forte. She's been someone I've admired for a long time, he said. I wanted to place her legacy, as well as my adoration for her life's work, at the center of it all. She was one of the first major names to experiment with androgynous style, which was particularly daring during her time. Koma incorporated design cues from the 1930s and the 1960s and twisted them to fit his idea of the modern woman's wardrobe. He used shades of lipstick and sorbet tones for asymmetrical tops, skirts and dresses composed of satin and embellished knits, as well as plum-trimmed separates that turn heads as they wafted down the runway. A tribute to classic red nails appeared in dresses with layers of elongated sequins, ruffled skirts with dangerously high crystal and crested slits. There was a distortion of the classic tuxedo, its silhouette exaggerated with shortened jacket lengths and trousers constructed from high-shine patent leather. Smoking motifs were present in the form of biker outerwear that featured vintage leather jackets sourced in East London. Elsewhere, jewelry pieces in collaboration with designer Emily Frances Barnett included Marlboro cigarette butts scattered across decorative pearls and layered chains. There was even a bejeweled cigarette with the closing look. I've been a fan of Emily's work since buying one of her pieces a couple of years ago, so it was a no-brainer for us to do something together, he said. Smoking was considered vulgar in the 1930s, especially for women, so I wanted to pay tribute to that.